for 26 years. I thought I knew what loyalty looked like. It looked like steady. It looked like showing up every morning to a job that paid the bills and kept people protected when the worst happened. It looked like building a life in Charleston where your word meant something and your handshake closed deals that mattered. My wife, Renee, used to say she loved that about me. The way I made her feel safe. She'd say it at dinner parties when clients asked how we made it work. Her high-energy consulting business and my careful insurance practice. She'd rest her hand on my shoulder and smile. And I'd believe her. I believed her, right up until the moment I saw the security footage from our own kitchen. Right up until I read the forged signatures on documents that stripped $9.8 million from accounts I'd spent decades building and protecting. Right up until I realized the woman who said she loved my stability had spent 18 months systematically destroying it with a man I'd met exactly twice. But that discovery didn't happen all at once, and neither did the unraveling. Thank you for being here with me today. Before we dive in, I'd love if you could drop a quick comment. Have you ever had someone you trusted completely surprise you? Yes or no? Your perspective truly matters. Just a note, some details here are fictionalized for storytelling and reflection. What matters most is the message this story carries. The phrase, "chose security over actually feeling alive," reached my ears just as I lifted the champagne flute to my lips. I froze. Neville Patterson, 52, a retirement insurance consultant who'd spent decades helping others secure their futures, stood frozen with a champagne flute halfway to my lips. The terrace of the Charlotte Country Club stretched before me, all glass walls and string quartet elegance, the June evening soft with fundraiser warmth. Renee Patterson, 48, my wife and development director for the Piedmont Arts Foundation, sat 3 feet away. She wore her fundraiser smile like armor polished, practiced, impenetrable. But she wasn't smiling now. She was speaking to her younger sister, Anwen Harding, 36, an interior designer whose eyes kept darting nervously between family members. I chose security over actually feeling alive, Renee said again, her voice carrying the casual certainty of someone who'd rehearsed the thought many times before. That's the truth of it. Anwen shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. Mom, maybe not here. But Judy Harding, 67, matriarch of the Harding family and fixture at every Charlotte charity event, leaned in with barely concealed delight. Well, stability has its place, doesn't it? The faint smile on her face suggested she'd been waiting for this confession for years. No one looked at me. Not one. I stood there, champagne warming in my hand, the murmur of 100 other conversations drifting around us. The candles on the table flickered. Someone laughed too loudly near the dessert spread. The string quartet transitioned into something Mozart, something forgettable. Renee kept talking. I mean, he's dependable, reliable, but when was the last time I felt, I don't know, excited? Anwen's discomfort deepened. But she didn't defend me. Neither did anyone else. Security. That's what I'd given her for 11 years, and she said it like it was a prison sentence. I'd built us a life where the bills paid themselves, where retirement funds compounded quietly, where emergencies never became crises, because I'd already planned 3 moves ahead. I thought that mattered. I thought she knew it mattered. But apparently, I'd been wrong. Near the dessert table, Wisteria Harding, 16, Anwen's daughter, stood filming something on her phone. Probably the event. Probably nothing, she murmured to herself. Aunt Renee looks so different tonight. I set the champagne down. My hand didn't shake, not yet. Then my wrist buzzed. The smartwatch notification lit up in the dim terrace light. Beneficiary change confirmation, policy number 4457821. I blinked at the screen, not understanding. I opened the email. The words assembled themselves slowly, like a sentence I didn't want to finish reading. New beneficiary, Harding Family Trust. Verified June 15th, 2026. 2 weeks ago. She'd changed it 2 weeks ago. My largest life insurance policy, $4.5 million. Now listed a beneficiary I'd never heard of. A trust that didn't exist when we'd set up our estate plan. A trust with her maiden name, not mine. When had she done this? How had I not known? I looked up. Renee was still talking, gesturing with her wine glass, explaining to her mother and sister why our marriage felt like a long, slow exhale into something beige. She hadn't noticed me reading the notification. She hadn't noticed me at all. "Where's he going now?" Renee said as I stepped back from the table. "Always wandering off." I didn't answer. I walked past the other tables, past couples I'd known for years, past the valet stand where someone asked if I needed my car. I shook my head and kept walking, out to the fountain where the sound of water covered the noise in my head. The notification glowed on my wrist. Beneficiary changed. Verified 2 weeks ago. Recipient listed as Harding Family Trust, a trust I'd never heard of. I walked past the valet stand, past the fountain, my mind already cataloging which policies she had access to, which accounts bore both our signatures, which locks she held keys to. By morning, I would know exactly how deep the betrayal went. I didn't wait for morning. By 4 a.m. Saturday, I was at my office, the Patterson Financial Advisors suite, dark except for the blue glow of my monitor. The building was silent. The air conditioning hummed. My coffee sat untouched, going cold, while I pulled up every policy, every account, every document that bore both our names. The first irregular transfer appeared at 4:17 a.m. $47,000 withdrawn from our joint retirement fund on May 3rd. Authorization code I'd never seen before. I opened the transaction details. The authorization signature was digital, verified through Renee's mobile app at 11:47 p.m. while I'd been asleep next to her. I kept scrolling. There were more. $38,000 on May 10th, $52,000 on May 24th, each one processed late at night. Each one routed to an account ending in numbers I didn't recognize. The total climbed past $137,000, vanishing in increments small enough that our monthly statements wouldn't scream theft, just look like portfolio rebalancing. Then I found the policies. 4 policies. She'd changed all 4. Methodical. Policy 4457821. The one from last night's notification beneficiary changed from me to Harding Family Trust, $4.5 million. Policy 4457822, same trust, $2.8 million. Policy 4457823, same trust, $1.9 million. Policy 4457824, same trust, $3.2 million. $12.4 million in life insurance, all redirected to a trust I'd never heard of, all processed within the last 6 weeks. 4 policies, I muttered to the empty office. She changed all 4. Methodical. I pulled the digital signatures. Every one matched Renee's account access. Every one time-stamped late evening or early morning hours, when I was either working late or already asleep. She'd been dismantling our financial life in the margins of my awareness, piece by careful piece, for 26 years. I'd used these skills to protect people. Now, I was using them to see how thoroughly my wife had gutted me. My phone rang at 6:45 a.m. The caller ID showed Judith Prescott, Judge B. Prescott, 71. A retired teacher and widow whose late husband's insurance policies I'd managed for years. Never called before 7 on a weekend. Never called panicked. "Mr. Patterson," she said, her voice tight with distress. "There's a signature on my trust amendment I didn't make digital, dated March 18th. I've been going through my files, and I found it this morning. I never authorized this. My blood went cold. Who was the processing advisor on the document? Your wife's name is on the header, Judith said. I thought you knew. I pulled up Judith's account while she stayed on the line. There it was, a trust amendment, processed through our firm. Advisor listed as R. Patterson. The document had been filed 3 months ago. Adding a secondary beneficiary, I knew Judith had never requested. I thanked her, promised to investigate, and ended the call with hands that had started to shake. How many other clients had she touched? I ran a search. All documents processed by Renee Patterson in the last 6 months. 43 files. I opened them one by one, cross-referencing signatures, looking for patterns. That's when I found it. Buried in the metadata of Judith's amendment, a reference to the primary trust document. Harding Family Trust, established April 2026. Activation date, June 28, 2026. I opened our shared calendar, the one Renee had always insisted we maintain for transparency. The one that let us coordinate our lives. June 28, 6:15 a.m. RDU departure, Raleigh-Durham International Airport. A flight, an exit. The trust document sat on my screen. Harding Family Trust, activation, June 28, 2026. I opened Renee's shared calendar, the one she'd always insisted we maintain for transparency. June 28, 6:15 a.m. RDU departure. She'd planned the exit down to the minute, and she'd been moving pieces into place for months. I needed to see what else she'd hidden. Monday afternoon, I drove to our lakeside house while Renee was at the Piedmont Arts Foundation for back-to-back meetings. Her calendar said she'd be there until 5. That gave me 2.5 hours. I used my own key to enter my own house, but my hand shook like a thief's. The house was silent. Too silent. No coffee maker gurgling on the counter. No laptop charger snaking across the kitchen island. No shoes kicked off by the door. Everything gleamed. Surfaces spotless. Like a model home staged for buyers who'd never actually lived there. When did she stop leaving coffee mugs in the sink? I whispered to the empty kitchen. I walked through the living room. Photos still hung on the walls. Our wedding. A trip to Charleston. A fundraiser gala from 3 years ago. But they felt curated now, like props in someone else's story. The throw pillows sat at perfect angles. The magazines on the coffee table were fanned just so. Nothing out of place, I said, my voice barely audible. Like a showroom. This wasn't our home anymore. It was her exit strategy, dressed in throw pillows and neutral paint. Her office door was closed but unlocked. I stepped inside, breathing in the faint scent of her perfume and lemon furniture polish. Everything here was equally pristine. Desk clear except for a single pen. Bookshelves organized by color. Filing cabinet labeled in her precise handwriting. Beneath her desk was a locked drawer. Not a key lock, a 4-digit combination. I knelt beside it, running my fingers over the cold metal. She'd had this installed last year. Said she needed secure storage for client files she brought home. I'd never questioned it. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. Her birthday. Nothing. Then I remembered her mother's birthday. April 17th, 0417. The lock clicked open. Inside was a single manila folder. I pulled it out with hands that had started to shake again. The first page was a resort confirmation. Hilton Head Palmetto Resort. Suite 407, June 28th to July 12th, 2026. 2-week reservation. Oceanfront Premium Suite. 2 weeks. She'd booked 2 weeks. The next page was a wire transfer schedule printed from her personal bank account, the one I'd never had access to, the one she'd opened for fundraising expenses. 6 transfers, each one precisely calculated. May 15th. $100,000. May 22nd, $100,000. May 29th, $100,000. June 5th, $100,000. June 12th, $100,000. June 27th, $100,000. $600,000, I muttered. In 6 transfers. Deliberate. Beneath the transfer schedule was a numbered checklist. The header read, Clean Exit Protocol. Step 1. Finalize. Harding Family Trust activation complete. Step 2. Redirect life insurance beneficiaries complete. Step 3. Transfer joint retirement funds to secured account in progress. Step 4. Confirm resort reservation and secondary lodging. Complete Step 5. Archive digital communications with ZR in progress. Step 6. Notify N post-departure via letter. No confrontation required. No confrontation required. Like I was a minor administrative detail. A box to check after she'd already left. ZR eyes stared at those initials. Who was ZR? At the bottom of the page, drawn in blue ink, was a symbol. 2 interlocking circles with a diagonal slash through the overlap. I froze. I know this, I whispered. Where have I seen this? It pulled at something in my memory, something professional, something from years ago. A client file, a case that had gone sideways, settled before it reached court. The kind of case where everyone signed NDAs and walked away quietly. Fund redirection. That's what it had been. Someone moving money through trust structures to avoid detection. The symbol sat at the bottom of her checklist, 2 interlocking circles with a diagonal slash through the overlap. I'd seen it before, years ago, in a client file involving fund redirection. A case that had been settled quietly. The kind where everyone signed NDAs and walked away. I needed to remember whose case it was. I sat in my car by the lake, scrolling through old contacts until I found the name. Gerald Blackwood, insurance fraud compliance investigator. We'd worked together on a case in 2019, something that had settled quietly before reaching court. The phone rang 4 times before Gerald Blackwood answered, voice wary the way compliance investigators always sound when old cases resurface. Gerald, I said. It's Neville Patterson, from the Piedmont case. A pause. Neville, long time. What's this about? I need to ask you about a symbol. 2 interlocking circles with a diagonal slash through the overlap. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. That symbol, Gerald finally said, voice tight. Christ, I haven't thought about that case in years. Piedmont Regional Arts Council, 2019. Tell me what you remember. Fund redirection, Gerald said. $340,000 moved through fake vendor accounts. Took us 8 months to trace the pattern. The person who set it up used that symbol as a signature on internal documents, thought it was clever. We settled before it went public. ND. As all around. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. My wife worked there. Renee Patterson, then Renee Harding. Another long pause. She was the development coordinator, Gerald said slowly. Claimed she didn't know the vendor accounts were fabricated. Said she just processed the paperwork her supervisor gave her. Did you believe her? The evidence was circumstantial. We couldn't prove intent. She walked away clean, kept her professional license. But Neville... He hesitated. I didn't believe her. The patterns were too precise. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. The woman I'd married didn't exist. She'd been someone else before I met her, and she was becoming someone else now. Why are you asking about this now? Gerald asked. Because I found that symbol again, I said. At the bottom of a checklist detailing how she's planning to leave me. With a lot of money. Gerald swore softly. Name Zane Rawlings mean anything to you? My chest went cold. He's involved. How do you know him? Compliance flagged him twice in the last 3 years, Gerald said. We can't prove anything, but the pattern's there. He targets married women, usually 40s to mid-50s, usually with accessible assets. Presents himself as a lifestyle advisor or investment consultant. Seduces them. Convinces them to move money into accounts he controls, then vanishes right before the planned departure. How many? I asked. 3 confirmed cases in the Carolinas alone, all settled quietly. He doesn't steal, he gets them to move it themselves. 3 wives, 3 clean exits, 3 silent settlements. How many other men sat in cars like this, realizing they'd been inventory? The women never see him again, I asked. Never, Gerald confirmed. One victim said he was supposed to meet her in Costa Rica, never showed. Another said Turks and Caicos, same story. They're left stranded with empty accounts and no recourse because they authorized every transfer themselves. And Renee? I asked. You've heard her name in connection with him? Whispers, Gerald admitted. Nothing concrete. But if you're telling me she's using that old symbol again, and Rawlings is involved, he trailed off. Neville, if she's involved with Rawlings and showing those old patterns, you're not looking at an affair. You're looking at an exit fund built from your accounts. The lake had gone dark outside my window. The water looked black, reflecting nothing. What do I do? I asked. Get a lawyer, Gerald said immediately. Today, someone who specializes in asset protection and fraud. Zero freeze everything you can before she realizes you know. Because once she knows, she'll accelerate the timeline. Exactly. I thanked him and ended the call. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was racing. I needed a lawyer who specialized in stopping people from vanishing with money that wasn't theirs. Wednesday morning, I found the lawyer. Hamish Connolly, 58, a family law attorney whose office smelled of old leather and quiet victories. Listened without interruption as I laid out the evidence. His office was tucked into an old building on Trade Street, the kind of place that charged by results, not billable hours. I spread 11 years of my marriage across his conference table in the form of printouts, screenshots, and transfer receipts. 4 life insurance policies, I said, sliding the beneficiary change confirmations across the polished wood. $12.4 million, all redirected to a trust I never heard of. Hamish picked up the first document, reading in silence. Retirement fund transfers, I continued. $137,000. Moved in increments small enough to avoid automatic alerts. Another document across the table. Harding Family Trust, established April 2026. Activation date, June 28, 2026. I placed the trust paperwork next to the others. June 28th, 6:15 a.m. departure. She has it scheduled like a business trip. Hamish's pen moved across his notepad. He didn't look up. Client fraud. I added Judith Prescott's file. My wife processed a trust amendment using a client's digital signature without authorization. Finally, I placed Gerald Blackwood's notes on top of everything else. Background check on Renee Patterson, May Harding. Implicated in a 2019 fund redirection case, $340,000. Settled with N. Diaz and her current associate, Zane Rawlings. I tapped the page. 3 previous cases, same pattern, same outcome. Hamish read Gerald's notes slowly. When he finished, he looked up. 3 previous cases, he repeated. Same pattern, same outcome. Yes. Can we stop it? I asked. Hamish leaned back in his chair. We can do better than stop it. We can dismantle it. I'd spent my career building safety nets. Now I was weaving a cage. Emergency injunction, Hamish said, already writing. We freeze all beneficiary changes today. I'll file with Judge Merrick. He owes me from the Thornton case. The freeze goes into effect immediately. No advance notice required. And the trust? I asked. The $600,000. Court order blocking the June 27th transfer, Hamish said. We isolate the trust from any outbound transactions until the divorce is finalized. He paused, pen hovering over his notes. But here's where it gets interesting. The client fraud using Judith Prescott's digital signature without authorization. That's not just unethical. That's criminal. Something shifted in my chest. Criminal. Wire fraud, identity theft, unauthorized access to financial instruments. Hamish ticked them off on his fingers. Combined with the pattern evidence from Gerald's investigation and Rawlings' documented history, we have leverage for criminal referral. Meaning she has two choices, Hamish said. Sign an uncontested divorce with complete asset forfeiture. She walks away with nothing. You keep everything, or face criminal fraud charges that could cost her professional license, criminal record, and possibly jail time. Before I tell you what happened next, if you're still with me, comment A if you think I should confront her immediately, or B if I should wait. And tell me why in 5 to 10 words. Quick note, some details here are adapted for storytelling, but the core lesson is real. We freeze the beneficiaries today. Hamish continued. Emergency petition. The trust gets locked down by end of business. But if you want her to face actual consequences beyond losing the money, we need one more piece. What piece? Proof of intent, Hamish said. Right now, we can prove she moved money, changed beneficiaries, processed fraudulent documents. What we can't prove yet is that she knew she was committing criminal fraud, not just aggressive asset planning. How do you prove someone knew they were crossing a line they'd crossed before? What kind of proof? I asked. Communication, Hamish said. Email, text, recorded conversation, something showing she understood the criminal nature of her actions. Without that, a prosecutor might decline to file. With it, he tapped the evidence spread before us. With it, you have absolute leverage. Hamish tapped the evidence spread before us. The beneficiary freezes, the trust injunction, the fraud leverage. It's all executable. But if you want her to face actual consequences beyond losing the money, we need proof of intent. Something showing she knew this was criminal fraud, not just aggressive asset planning. I knew exactly where to find that proof. But first, I needed to show her what I already knew. Thursday evening, Renee texted, "We need to talk, Sky Bar, 7:30. I agreed. The Sky Bar Glass Lounge occupied the top floor of a hotel overlooking Charlotte's skyline. Glass walls, leather booths. The kind of place where Renee felt comfortable having difficult conversations in public, where raised voices would be social suicide. She was already seated when I arrived, wine glass half empty, her fundraiser smile firmly in place. Renee's opening line was perfectly rehearsed. I think we both know this marriage hasn't made either of us happy for a long time. I sat down across from her, set my briefcase beside the table, and said nothing. I've been thinking, she continued, her voice measured and calm, about what's fair, what's honest. And I think if we're both adults about this, we can handle it maturely. Handle what? I asked. The end, she said simply. We've grown in different directions. You're a good man, Neville. Safe, reliable. But I need something that makes me feel alive. Safe, reliable. The same words she'd used at the fundraiser. The ones that had started all of this. I think if we're honest, we can handle this maturely, Renee said. Division of assets, clean separation, no lawyers, no drama. I sipped my water. It tasted like nothing. You haven't said anything, she observed. I'm listening, I said. She relaxed slightly, mistaking my silence for acceptance. I've looked into it. North Carolina is an equitable distribution state. We split what we've built together. We both move forward. Simple. Assets, I said quietly. Yes, let's talk about those. She'd spent months planning this conversation. I'd spent 4 days ending it before it began. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a manila folder, placed it on the table between us. What's this? Renee asked, her smile faltering. I opened the folder. The first document was a beneficiary change form. Policy 4457821, I said, sliding it toward her. Beneficiary changed to Harding Family Trust, June 15th, 11:47 p.m. While I slept next to you. Her smile vanished. I placed the next document on top. Policy 4457822. Same trust, same midnight authorization. Another document. Policy 4457823. Another. Policy 4457824. You went through my files. Her voice had tightened, the careful modulation slipping. $12.4 million, I said. 4 policies, all redirected to a trust established in April. I placed the trust document on the table. Harding Family Trust. Activation date, June 28, 2026. Renee's hand moved toward her wine glass, then stopped. I laid out the transfer schedule next. $600,000, 6 transfers. Final one scheduled for June 27th. Her hand froze halfway to her wine glass. Then there's Judith Prescott, I continued. Unauthorized digital signature on a trust amendment you processed. Gerald Blackwood sends his regards, by the way. He remembers the Piedmont Arts Council case very clearly. The color drained from her face. And Zane Rawlings, I said. 3 previous cases, 3 women, 3 clean exits. I pulled out the final documents, court orders, stamped and signed that morning. The accounts are frozen, I said. Emergency injunction filed Wednesday. The trust is locked. The June 28th transfer won't clear. And Hamish Connolly has everything Gerald Blackwood remembers about 2019. Renee stared at the spread of documents, her carefully constructed narrative, her planned exit, her months of preparation, all dismantled in printed columns and legal stamps. You can't, she started. I already did, I said. She looked up at me then. Really looked. Not at the reliable fixer she'd married. Not at the safe choice she'd outgrown. Not at the man who'd spent 11 years building shelters she could burn down without consequence. She stared at the spread of documents her exit plan dismantled in printed columns and legal stamps, then looked up at me. Really looked. Not at the reliable fixer she'd married. Not at the safe choice she'd outgrown. But at someone she'd completely miscalculated. And for the first time in 11 years, I saw her afraid. That fear didn't last long. She left the bar without another word. But Saturday afternoon, I got the proof Hamish needed. Wisteria found me in the parking lot outside her school, phone in her trembling hands, and guilt written across her 16-year-old face. I didn't know what it meant, she said, barely audible. Until Mom said you were accusing Aunt Renee of... I'm so sorry. She held out her phone. I was filming at the fundraiser, just for fun, but there's something on here I think you need to see. I took the phone. The video was 47 seconds long, time-stamped, June 15th, 7:52 p.m., the night of the gala, before I'd discovered anything. The camera angle was shaky. Wisteria had been filming the dessert table, the string quartet, the elegant crowd, but the audio was clear. 2 voices, just off camera, near the terrace edge. Renee, and the man I didn't recognize. You promised the beneficiary change would clear before he noticed, the man said. His voice was low, smooth. I'm handling it, Renee replied. The final transfer hits the 27th. After that, it doesn't matter what he knows. And the client's signatures. Processed. Clean. No flags. You promised this would be clean, the man said again. It will be. Trust me. The camera panned away, back to the dessert table. The voices faded. I replayed it 3 times. A 16-year-old with a phone had just handed me what a lawyer couldn't manufacture: criminal intent. Time-stamped and recorded. Who was she talking to? I asked. I don't know, Wisteria said. I didn't see him. I was just filming the party. I saved the video to my phone and thanked her. She hugged herself, looking smaller than 16. Is Aunt Renee in trouble? She asked. Yes, I said. She is. 6 hours later, my phone rang. Renee's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer. He's not here, she said when I picked up. Her voice was tight, strained. Zane, he's not answering. The resort says they have no reservation. My cards won't work. I said nothing. Are you listening to me? Her voice climbed. I'm at the Hilton Head Palmetto Resort. There's no reservation under my name. There's no reservation under his name. He was supposed to be here yesterday. He's not answering his phone. It goes straight to voicemail. The accounts are frozen, I said quietly. I told you Thursday. I have $183, she said. Cash, that's it. Everything else, my cards don't work. The hotel won't take me without a card on file. Silence. Where is he? She asked, and her voice cracked. Where's Zane? Gone, I said. He wouldn't just... Yes, I said. He would. Gerald told me. 3 other women. Same pattern. He gets them to move the money, then he vanishes. Did she really think I'd drive 4 hours to rescue the woman who'd spent 6 months building an exit fund from my life insurance? The line went quiet. I could hear resort lobby noise in the background, murmured conversations, luggage wheels on marble, someone laughing. I don't know what to do, Renee said finally. You could call your mother, I suggested. I can't. She can't know about this. Nobody can know. They'll know, I said. Hamish has everything. The trust documents, the transfer schedules, Gerald's report on 2019. And as of this afternoon, I have video of you and Zane discussing the beneficiary changes before I ever knew they'd been made. Her breath caught. Criminal intent, I said. Time-stamped, recorded, your voice. Are you going to help me? She asked, voice cracking. Or are you going to leave me here? The line stayed open. I could hear resort lobby noise, murmured conversations, luggage wheels on marble, someone laughing. Renee's breathing was shallow. Waiting. For 11 years. I'd been the one who fixed things when they broke, but I wasn't that man anymore. I left her at that gas station. The decision came easily, not from cruelty, but from clarity. I drove back to Charleston in silence, windows down, letting the salt air carry away the last remnants of obligation. By the time I reached home, the security footage from Wisteria's cameras had already been forwarded to Hamish with a note, "Compile everything. I want this finished." The video message arrived Sunday night at 9:47 p.m. Hamish called me immediately. "You need to see this before we meet tomorrow." His voice carried that careful neutrality lawyers use when the evidence speaks for itself. He sent me the encrypted link, and I opened it on my laptop, sitting at the kitchen island where Renee used to plan her elaborate dinner parties that I'd never been invited to help with. The screen showed a budget motel room, floral bedspread, water-stained ceiling, the kind of place that charged by the week. Renee sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing yesterday's linen dress, now wrinkled and road-dusty. Her makeup had worn off completely. She looked exhausted in a way I'd never seen during our marriage, when her appearance had been maintained with the precision of a military operation. "Neville." Her voice was flat, defeated. "I'm recording this because I don't have the courage to say it to your face, and because your lawyer needs documentation." She glanced off camera, then back. "Everything Wisteria showed you is true. The beneficiary changes, the trust amendments, the forged signatures on the insurance transfers. I did all of it. I've been doing it for 18 months, since Zane and I started planning our exit strategy." A pause. She rubbed her eyes with the heels of her hands. "But the part that's harder to admit is why. You think I resented you, and I did, but not for the reasons you'd assume. I've spent years jealous of your ability to be content. I called it boring. I called it settling. It wasn't. It was peace. And I've never had that. Not before you, not during our marriage, and certainly not with Zane." The camera caught her trembling hands. "When I was 26, I worked for a wealth management firm in Atlanta. I manipulated client portfolios to cover personal debts. Nothing dramatic, just enough to stay afloat. They never prosecuted because I repaid everything before the audit. But my Series 65 license was quietly revoked. That's why I shifted to insurance consulting. Fewer regulatory checkpoints." She looked directly at the lens. "I thought you were my shelter from all that. The stable, reliable man who'd never ask questions, never dig too deep. And you were. Until you weren't. Until Wisteria made you curious. Until you started actually looking at the life I'd built on top of your foundation." Her voice cracked. I'm signing the divorce papers your lawyer sent. Complete forfeiture. No contest. No criminal charges. That's the deal. Right. I'll take it. Because the alternative is fraud prosecution, professional destruction, and probably jail time given Judith Prescott's family is already involving the district attorney. The video ended with her reaching toward the camera, the screen going black. Monday morning at 7:42 a.m., Hamish's assistant confirmed DocuSign completed, notarized, filed. Renee Wallace had relinquished all claims to our shared assets, our home, our accounts. In exchange, I wouldn't press charges for forgery, fraud, or theft. Sitting in Hamish's office at 10 o'clock, I realized the truth she'd circled around in that confession. She hadn't missed me. She'd missed the shelter I'd built, the stability I represented, the safety net she could exploit without consequence. But I wasn't a shelter anymore. I was the storm. 4 months after the divorce finalized, I woke to ocean waves instead of policy notifications, and for the first time in years, that felt like exactly enough. The cottage sat 100 yards from the Atlantic, a weathered rental on Wrightsville Beach with peeling blue paint and a wooden porch that creaked under bare feet. 1 bedroom, galley kitchen, living room barely large enough for a couch and reading chair. No granite countertops, no smart home integration, no wine cellar. The simplicity felt like oxygen after years of holding my breath in a house designed to impress people I'd never liked. I kept my coffee mug on the porch railing chipped ceramic, bought at a thrift store for $2, and watched the sunrise paint the water copper and gold. Gulls circled overhead, their cries sharp against the rhythmic crash of waves. The salt air tasted clean, unfiltered by central air conditioning or the perfume Renee used to wear that made my eyes water. My practice had downsized to 15 clients. 3 days a week, I worked from the cottage's spare room, helping people plan careful futures without chasing aggressive returns. Retirees mostly, folks who understood that wealth meant security, not performance. They valued the same things I did: predictability, honesty, plans that accounted for worst-case scenarios instead of promising best-case fantasies. The rest of my time belonged to me. Morning coffee, afternoon walks along the beach collecting sea glass, evenings reading on the porch until the light faded and the stars emerged, sharper here than they'd ever been in Lake Norman's glow. 15 clients, 3 days a week. No one who mistakes reliability for weakness, I said aloud to the empty porch, testing the words against the ocean's indifference. The cottage cost 1/3 of what the Lake Norman house had, felt 10 times more like home. For 52 years, I'd built safety nets for others, insurance policies, estate plans, beneficiary trusts that would catch families when tragedy struck. I'd been good at it because I understood fear. The kind that keeps you up at 3 a.m. imagining hospital bills and funeral costs and children left unprotected. But I'd never built one for myself. Not really. I'd assumed my marriage was the net, that Renee's presence meant I'd never fall alone. Wrong assumption. Now I was learning what it felt like to stand in a shelter built solely for my own use, with walls I'd mortared myself and doors that locked from the inside. Being chosen. Renee's choice, Zane's manipulation. Even Wisteria's initial interest had mattered less than I'd thought. Being valued was the thing. And I was learning, slowly, to value myself first. The gala felt like a lifetime ago. That glass terrace overlooking manufactured lakes. The murmured conversations that stopped when I approached. Renee's hand on Zane's arm like a brand. Her voice still echoed sometimes. That careful dismissal. He chose security over feeling alive. I used to think she was diagnosing my limitation. She wasn't. She was describing her own emptiness. The hollow need that mistook chaos for vitality and stability for death. I'd given her a foundation, and she'd resented it, because foundations require you to build something meaningful on top. She never had. just expensive furniture arranged in empty rooms, dinner parties designed to impress strangers, a marriage she'd treated like a stepping stone towards something better that never materialized. I used to think quiet meant invisible, I told the ocean. It doesn't. The sun climbed higher, painting the porch boards honey gold. My coffee had gone lukewarm, but I didn't move. Some people only understand what shelter means after they've burned it down, standing cold in the ashes, wondering why the flames didn't keep them warm. But I wasn't waiting in those ashes anymore. I was here, on a creaking porch that smelled like salt and weathered wood, drinking cheap coffee from a chipped mug, watching waves that had rolled for millennia and would roll millennia more, indifferent to betrayal and vindication alike. And that, finally, was enough. And to you listening to my story, remember this: those who mistake your stability for weakness are revealing their own emptiness, not your limitation. Don't make my mistake of confusing quiet devotion with invisible worth. For 26 years, I believed building shelter for someone else was enough. I thought loyalty meant accepting whatever judgment they placed on me. I was wrong. The moment I started valuing myself first was when everything changed. Not just this revenge story, but my entire understanding of what I deserved. This drama family saga taught me that peace isn't boring when protected by boundaries. Stability isn't settling when chosen with intention. I believe God allowed me to walk through this betrayal to help others recognize the difference between being valued and being used. The Lord's timing brought wisteria into my practice at exactly the right moment. Providence, not coincidence. When someone shows you their true character, believe them the first time. And when you find courage to walk away from what's destroying you, trust that something better is being built. If this revenge story resonated with you, leave a comment telling me which moment hit hardest: the gala humiliation or the gas station. Share this drama, family lesson with someone who needs it. And if you'd like more stories about finding strength in unexpected places, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support matters deeply. Thank you for staying until the very end. Your time is a gift I don't take lightly. Reminder: certain details have been fictionalized for storytelling purposes. Any resemblance to specific individuals is purely coincidental. What matters most is the message, and I hope it stays with you. God bless you.